Hi, this is James, and I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle Outlook for the week starting January the 2nd, 2017. This is the first weekly Oracle Outlook for the new year, so I want to say thank you for sharing the space here with me for this video, and I'm hoping that your new year is getting off to a great start. So this week we're going to be doing an angel card reading, and the deck that I was guided to use this week is the Archangel Oracle Cards. They are by Doreen Virtue and they are published by Hay. So I want to share a little bit about how I was led to use this deck, and I share these explanations for a couple of reasons, especially in light of we're doing an angel card reading this week. I offer this to show you how Spirit and the angels guide me and lead me to use the decks that I use, but I also want to offer my experiences as ways that can help you look at the way that Spirit and the angels work with you. I'm a big believer in that when we share an experience, it sometimes can help us look at our own personal experiences. So that is the spirit and the intention behind my sharing my personal experiences. So the story goes like this. I was away. I was tending to a family member who had surgery, and while I was staying with him, I had only packed away one tarot deck, and so the deck that I brought with me was the Angel Tarot cards. They are by Doreen Virtue, Radley Valentine, Steve Roberts, and they are also published by Hay. So I had that deck with me, and what I do as part of my daily spiritual practice is I always draw a card asking what do I need to know about the energy of the day. So I had done that in this particular case, and the card I drew was the Renewal card, and it is a major arcana card. If you are familiar with tarot, it is known as Judgment. It is one of my personal favorite major arcana cards. So I had pulled this card, and the angel on the card is Archangel Jeremiah, who is one of my favorite archangels. So I drew the card, I took my notes. You know, what I do is I journal what I get when the card comes up, so I did that. And I had some space to meditate, and this was actually the first time I got to meditate while I was away. Because of tending to this family member, it kind of changes the rhythm of my routine, my schedule, and so I wasn't really able to meditate the way that I would have liked. So, but this particular morning, I had plenty of time, so I made a point to meditate. And during the meditation, Archangel Jeremiah came in. And so now this is important to explain. So when I say Archangel Jeremiah came in, sometimes you may hear other angel experts or other angel card readers, and they're talking about they're seeing angels or they're hearing angels. I like to be quite clear on how my personal experience is. So what happens in my particular experience is that because the angels know that I love cards, and I mean I love cards, and they know that, they will show me a card. So when I say Archangel Jeremiah came in, Archangel Jeremiah came in by showing me again the Renewal card. So in my mind, I got a flash of the Renewal card. And so that's how I knew I was in the presence of Archangel Jeremiah. And again, I'm saying this because keep in mind that when you form a personal connection and personal relationship with your angels, they will relate to you in a way that is familiar and comfortable to you. So me being a card reader, they love showing me cards. So in this particular case, I was shown the Renewal card, so I knew Archangel Jeremiah was there, especially in light of the fact that I had drawn the card and wrote in my journal my notes and impressions about the card. So the card showing up again in my mind, being flashed to me, I knew was significant. And so Archangel Jeremiah came in, and we are in Mercury retrograde. And so this meditationist experience with Archangel Jeremiah was actually on the first day of Mercury retrograde, which was December the 19th. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be in retrograde until January the 8th. So this was actually the very first day of the retrograde. So when Archangel Jeremiah came in after I saw the card, I was reminded that we were in Mercury retrograde. And so I want to say this about Mercury retrograde. A lot of people get hung up on Mercury retrograde. Yes, it's a reminder to be mindful of possible challenges and issues regarding communication and travel, and we're always encouraged to consider whether or not that's the ideal time to start a new project or a new venture. And I will say, honestly, for me, I did have issues with computers and technology and my phone. I did have that. I did have communication issues. I had a misunderstanding in that week, in that space and time. And I also had challenges with my car. I had issues with my car, so there was a travel aspect. So I did have all of those. So I don't want to diminish those or dismiss those. But in the conversation with Jeremiah about retrograde, I was led to be shown the 3 R's. And when I say the 3 R's, I'm not talking about reading, writing, and arithmetic. In this particular case, Archangel Jeremiah made a point to show me that a retrograde is really an ideal time for the 3 R's, which are review. And this is significant because Archangel Jeremiah is the angel of life review. So review was the first R, reflect was the second R, and then reconsider was the third R. So I was shown that a retrograde is a time for review, reflection, and reconsideration. And then I was given the information that, isn't it interesting, a coincidence was actually the word, coincidence, and a coincidence is really a co-creation between you and spirit, right? An incident that's co-created between you and spirit. So a coincidence that this retrograde fell during the period where we were transitioning from 2016 to 2017. And that's a perfect time. I think if you watched my video last week, I talked about, for me, when the years change, I find it to be a very reflective time for myself. I always stop to consider, what did I learn through my experiences of the year going out? And how is that better going to prepare me and propel me for the year coming in? So I had that thought, and Archangel Jeremiah validated that. Like, isn't that an interesting time for those 3 things, those 3 R's, because we're transitioning from one year to the next. And then Archangel Jeremiah made a point to remind me that the year going out, 2016, if you do the numerology, is or was a 9 universal year. So a 9 year is a year where, from the traditional numerology standpoint, is where it's a year where things get wrapped up, things come to an end, things that we've been holding on to that we no longer need, that no longer are going to serve and support us into the year coming in, are kind of released and kind of are removed from our lives. So give you some examples. So that could be the year where people experience breakups, people make transitions. We lost a lot of people, at least in the public sphere, in 2016. And also, like, people lose jobs, they find themselves out of work for one reason or another. So things like that happen. But in angel numerology, the 9 is a number of stepping into our divine life purpose. And so things happen, and there are lots of major events in the news, current events, that kind of, I've said this before, kind of are going to be things that are going to galvanize us as a collective, but also getting us as individuals to step into our divine life purpose. I said this before, I believe that lots of things that were going on were things that are getting those of us who call ourselves light workers. And a light worker for me is a person who is just working to bring more light into the world, whatever that expression is. It manifests in different ways for each of us, but it's about bringing and working with more light in the world. So that is my personal definition of a light worker. And so I believe that we are all being activated to some degree based on a certain issue, cause, or event that we feel very strongly about. And so, I've said this before, we fall into the space of thinking like, why doesn't somebody do something about that? And that somebody could be you. And that if you're feeling that strongly about it, that could be a way of you getting to work with your divine life purpose. And then Archangel Jeremiah reminded me that we're moving into a 1 universal year. 2017, if you do the numerology of it, reduces to 1. And so in light of things that happened towards the end of 2016, the 1 is a number of new beginnings. If you go with the traditional standpoint, just like things come to an end, we start a new cycle where things are beginning. But in terms of angel numerology, the 1 is a number that asks us to keep our thoughts positive. So no matter what's going on in the world around us, we're being called to be positive about it. And if you're seeing things that you don't like and you don't want, either in your own personal world or in the world at large, you're being called to like, what positive change can you bring to the table? I've said this before that I'm a big believer in, like, it's one thing to recognize that there's a problem, but we don't just focus on the problem, because when we focus on the problem, we only get more of the problem. So if you're seeing a problem, then you could be saying, what is the unique solution that I could bring to the table? How can I use my divine life purpose in manifesting a solution that could not just help me as an individual, but can help the collective possibly? And sometimes we get caught up in the idea of like, oh, this thing that's going on is much bigger than me. So I want to address that for a moment, because if that's the case, then you could say, what can I do to affect positive change in my personal world? And start there, because that change, that energy that you're bringing to that intention creates a ripple effect, and it ripples out. Everything that we do in our own sphere, in our own personal circles, it radiates out. We make a connection with one person, and then they connect with a person, and so forth, and so on, and so on. And it just kind of exponentially increases. And also, too, if we as a collective, each as an individual, has the thought, like, I want to affect some positive change, and then we exponentially increase that because there's more of us creating that kind of vibration. So Archangel Jeremiah showed me all of those things in this meditation period. And then I was led, because Archangel Jeremiah is an archangel, I was instructed to use the Archangel Oracle Cards, bringing this back to the reading. I was instructed to use the Archangel Oracle Cards for my own personal practice up until the time I was ready to shoot this video. And then I was encouraged to use the cards for this week's video. So that is the story. Again, I'm sharing that because I think it's important. I usually don't get messages that I feel are of a collective nature, so I wanted to share that. But again, I'm sharing it with the spirit and the intention, like, that is how the angels communicate with me. So take that as an opportunity to look at the way that spirit and the angels are communicating with you, because trust me, if you're working with that energy, they are. So it's just a matter of you recognizing your own personal relationship and the way that they connect with you on that level. And so now let's get to the reading for the week. And so now I have the deck of cards in front of me, so I'm going to take the deck in hand. And as I do with my angel card readings, I am shuffling the cards with the intention of calling in the energy of spirit and the angels. And as I shuffle the cards, I'm asking for the insights and the guidance and the divine inspiration that we need to have, that is going to help us move through the experiences that we are going to be having through the week. As you know, I like to shuffle until I feel the energy of the angels coming in, and I can feel that now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the deck. And I get to do my favorite part, which is fan out the cards. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 3 now that I have the cards fanned out. So the first card I'm selecting is going to represent either the theme for the week or something that we need to know or consider for an experience that we could have at the beginning of the week. And now picking the second card. The second card, if we go with the idea that the first card represents the theme, then this card can represent direct guidance or advice from the angels that we're being asked to consider, because the angels always want to honor our free will choices. So we have the choice of whether we're going to accept the guidance being offered or not. Or this can be a card that represents a direct experience we can have in the middle of the week. And then looking at the fan one more time, I'm going to draw the third card. And the third card is going to be, if we consider the first card the theme for the week and the second card as direct guidance or advice, the third card can be the possible outcome. Because the angels told me this too. The angels reminded me that when we're working with angel cards, it's not necessarily about making a prediction as I would if I was reading with Lenormand or Kipper or Tarot even. It's not about making predictions, it's about making prescriptions that are going to help set the stage for positive changes in your life. So that's the way they look at that in terms of an outcome. The other aspect of this card could be a direct experience that we could have at the end of the week. So I have picked the cards, and the cards are face down, so I'm going to take a moment and gather up the remaining cards. Okay, so with the cards in front of me, I'm going to start with the first card. So the first card is, oh, I love this. So the first card is Spread Your Wings, and it has Archangel Ariel on the card. So I'll read the text. It says, "Do not hold back right now. The timing is perfect and you are ready to soar." What a wonderful card to have for the start of a new year. So I like how this is talking about the idea of what I was saying when I was talking about my meditation time with Archangel Jeremiah. Because as I look at the card, Archangel Ariel is actually spreading her wings. And here's the thing. The wings are actually a natural extension of her arms. If you're looking at the image, I'm looking at the image, and her arm actually, and the wings are actually connected, whereas typically we see, angel wings on the backs of angels. These are actually like an extension. So it could be, the idea here is the message could be like, how can we bring more divine energy, angelic energy into our actions this week? It's like taking the advice or taking the guides or taking the inspiration that you get from your angels and acting on it becomes, it's such a natural extension of her arm and her hands. So it's about like taking that guidance and moving forward with this. This could be, since we're talking about the idea of 2017 being a one universal year, this is about like, what is it that you're wanting to begin? What is it that you're wanting to take off doing? Because she's in the process of taking off into the air. So what is it that you want to be taking off and doing? And this is a time to get yourself prepared for that takeoff, for that launch. So for some people, this could actually be launching a new venture of some kind. I always read from the standpoint of being in business or being self-employed or something having to do with work or career. So it could be launching something along those lines. It could also be too like you wanting to maybe launch into becoming more connected to your angels, because again, the wings being connected to the arms is like, how can you develop more of a connection with your angels and allow that to be a natural extension into your everyday living experiences. So I'm seeing that. Also too, with Archangel Ariel, two things come to mind. Number one, if we're into this space where whatever it is that we're embarking on, this new phase, this new idea of spreading our wings and soaring, she is an angel of abundance. And so for me, when I consider her in that regard, I always stop to think like, what are the resources that you're going to need in order to make that launch possible? So consider that, and then go about like asking the angels to support you in bringing those resources to you when you need them. And the idea here is like also too, as I'm saying that, I'm being reminded to create the space to be open and receptive to those resources to come your way. Because it's one thing to ask, but it's also another thing to be open and receptive, to be ready for that, and not to block it, but to be ready for it. So I'm seeing that. And the other thing I want to say about Archangel Ariel in particular is that I always think of her about like standing in your own personal power. And so this is a time where no matter what it is that we're doing, if we're feeling like we're ready to spread our wings and we're ready to fly and we're ready to soar, it's about having that confidence. So I always think about confidence in regard to Archangel Ariel. So if you're embarking on something and it's a new thing, so anytime we move into a new sphere, we try something new, it can challenge our confidence and our self-confidence. So if you're feeling like you want to work on becoming more confident in this new endeavor, then you can call upon Archangel Ariel to assist you with that confidence. So I'm seeing that as spread your wings. Moving to the middle of the week, or the second card, is Counselor. Okay, so I'll hold the card up. Counselor. This is Archangel Azrael, and the text says, "You are a natural counselor, and many people benefit from your guidance and reassurance." So when I'm reading angel cards, I always look at the image first. So I'm looking at the image, and what I love about this, no accident, I talked about developing a connection and relationship with your angels. So here we have a person with her angel behind her, on her with the angel's hands on her shoulders. So again, for me, that's about the idea here about having your angels behind you represents you're being supported by your angels as you move into this new experience. And so the other thing I want to say in regards to this is Archangel Azrael is the angel who is associated with change and transitions. And so here we are at the first week of the new year where we transition from 2016 into 2017. So I love how the angels are really following along with this dynamic of this transition in terms of years. And so also too, keeping in mind with that, some people may have had challenges with 2016 in terms of looking at it from a lens of loss. And so if that is the case, Archangel Azrael is the angel who wants to support you in mourning those losses. Anytime something comes to an end, there may be a sense of loss attached to that. It doesn't mean like maybe you've lost something of a physical, tangible nature, going back to Archangel Ariel being an angel of abundance. It could be like you're looking at it from the lens of like, I've lost something in terms of maybe abundance mindset. You're looking at maybe your financial conditions, maybe there's been a financial change, and so you've lost something of that nature. Archangel Azrael is offering you the advice about mourning the loss. When we're embarking on change, there is a sense of loss that can be attached to that, and it's okay to grieve and mourn the loss. But Archangel Azrael also offers that don't get wrapped up or mired in the loss, that you can't move on and move on into the next stage or the next phase or the next chapter of your life. It's about being able to move on. So in that regard, Archangel Azrael works especially with grief counselors. So I'm seeing that. So if there is someone watching this video and you are actually mourning a loss, or you're having a difficult time getting through a loss, and loss comes up in all different forms, like I said, you might want to consider actually talking to a counselor to help you move through that, to help you uncover any blocks that are keeping you from moving on, and working those issues out. So I'm seeing that. Could also be too, like maybe somebody is actually considering moving into a venture of becoming a counselor. And if that's the case, then Archangel Azrael wants to work with you in developing that ability. Could also be too, like how can you help and support other people in moving on? Because I'm seeing this with Archangel Ariel, and I said about personal power. Here's the thing about that. You want to be in a position of supporting the person and not taking on the responsibility for them, because the shoulders on the card symbolically represent responsibility. And so I think it's being a call for, we can be supportive, but we have to be mindful of not disempowering people and allowing them to take personal responsibility and take the responsibility of creating change. Because I'm seeing that expression that change begins with you. So if you are embarking on changing something in your life, understand that change begins with you. So maybe it could be like, maybe we are looking at it from like wanting our outer circumstances to change, but we're being reminded of like what process of change do we have to do on the inside for that outer manifestations or those outer changes we want to see as an experience, you know. So it could be like, maybe in order for those things to change, you may have to change as an individual. So I'm seeing that. I'm taking a step back and I'm looking to see what else do I need to say about this card. I'm feeling like I'm complete with that right now. So that is the middle of the week. And so now rounding out the line to the end of the week, we have, I love this. Okay, so we have the card is you know what to do. So I'll hold the card up. You know what to do. And so the angel on this card is Archangel Uriel. And the text says, trust your inner guidance and act on it without delay. And so I'm so glad that I opened this week's reading going with the experience that I had, because it is just like this. I got the inner guidance. I trusted the guidance that I received, and then I acted on it because I'm using the deck that I was informed to use, and I also communicated the message that I received with all of you. So I'm seeing that as, again, a reminder of when we're given guidance from our angels and spirit, we are being given the guidance to act on it. So I love this card. Every time I pull this card, I always think of the Hermit in Tarot. And so the Hermit is a card of searching for meaning in one's life. It's a process of self-discovery. It's a card of withdrawal. It's about like turning within, going within, and accessing your own inner wisdom, which is the Lantern, your own inner wisdom, your own inner guidance, things of that nature. And you can only get that by turning within. So I'm seeing that. That's the first thing I always think of with this card is the Hermit. And then Archangel Uriel is the angel of insights, epiphanies, revelations. You know, I call Archangel Uriel the bright idea angel, if you will. So this could be the week where we have an aha moment, we have an epiphany, we have a divine revelation that we're being called to act upon. It's one thing to get the idea, it's another thing entirely to get the idea and act on the guidance. So I'm seeing that. I can't stress that message enough. So it could be also too, if we go with the idea here, somebody watching this video, when I said about being a counselor, I call Archangel Uriel the psychologist angel. So it could be like somebody is actually embarking on becoming a psychologist, because when I was embarking on my own undergrad and then graduate work to get my degrees in psychology, I believe strongly that Archangel Uriel was working with me in that 4-year span to get those degrees. So I want to offer that because I'm seeing that in my head, so to speak. I'm seeing that kind of experience playing out. So it could be somebody in watching this video is really being urged to get a degree in counseling or do counseling work. The other thing about this, if you are moving through a time of change and transition, going with the middle card, the counselor card, then it could be like you are going to be given some direct guidance, an epiphany, an aha, that's going to help uncover a possible psychological block that you've been having that's been keeping you from moving on. Because Archangel Uriel for me is the angel who helps illuminate, because his name means the light of God, so he helps illuminate any blocks. And I always see those blocks from a psychological perspective. So I'm seeing that energy. So I'm seeing this, generally speaking, we could be given ideas, direct guidance, direct divine guidance, either directly or through meditation. And I'm seeing it through meditation because my crown is tingling. So I'm considering the idea of like urging people to consider meditation this week strongly, and that you'll be getting guidance through that. It could also be too like you are going to be getting to the root of a problem that you've been experiencing, and you're going to be freed from it in a way that moves you forward. Going back to the first card being spreading your wings, I'm seeing like you're going to be able to take off and you're going to be able to soar as a result of that direct guidance. So I will end this week's reading on that note. So I am James Himm Mitchell, and as I sign off, I want to thank you once again for sharing this space here with me for the first Oracle Outlook of the year. And I look forward to continuing to share this space with you throughout 2017 in future readings and future Oracle Outlooks. So until that time, I want to wish you a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful week filled with many angel blessings. Take care.